of us were raised by people who had enormous amounts of genetic trauma and did not have communities to support them. Many of us were raised by parents and foster parents and caretakers, guardians, and I use these interchangeably because we were raised in many different situations. But one thing that we all have in common is that we're noticing areas where the love that we needed was not provided, where the protection that we needed was not provided. Many of us as women and some men have experienced a lot of inappropriate things around our body forming as young women. Many of us had uncles and cousins and even fathers and stepfathers and aunts who were inappropriate with us, and we're seeing the fallout of that now. See, the R. Kelly and Aaliyah situation was actually a archetypal template to teach us a lesson about generational trauma. It did not begin with them. Many of us did not get closure after those things, and we tried to move forward without actually healing these things. Many of us were punished and abused by people who thought that it was righteous to put their hands on us and hit us and hurt us and yell at us and even say to us, "I'm doing this for your own good. I'm whooping you. I'm beating you because I love you." And so very early on, subconsciously, we learned that emotional and physical abuse is a sign of love. And as children, we could not differentiate between what was a toxic dynamic and what wasn't. So that put us in a law of attraction mode to attract people who are a vibrational match to that subconscious belief. Whether you consciously believe it or not, your subconscious, unconscious self is what dictates what you attract more than your conscious self, because the conscious mind is only 20%. The other 80 is subconscious, unconscious. So many of us have attracted relationships with people with a vibrational match of trauma. Many of us, as we have done the work on ourselves, we have reduced our tolerance for dysfunction. What we once overlooked now is obvious and impossible to ignore. There's a certain pain that is associated with your third eye being open, meaning you have deeper awareness. To manage the pain of awareness, it requires emotional mastery. It requires spiritual dedication. Many of us don't have anybody who understands these things in our day-to-day life. We don't really have anybody that we could bounce ideas off of or vent to and talk to, because those of us who have been doing this work have started to outgrow the emotional intelligence of people in our lives. And there's a certain sadness, anger, even rage that comes with this deeper level of awareness. Many of us have been able to see what inside of us attracted these situations, and there's a certain level of discomfort that comes with seeing your shadow self. Many of us blame the people that trigger us and hurt us for what's happening in our lives because we don't know how to change it. Blame is a default coping mechanism that is oftentimes subconscious to help protect ourselves. This is what we learned as children. The ego will try to protect you. The ego is only capable of pointing out the problems outside of you. The ego is not capable of seeing him or herself and the problems that originate from within him or herself. So many of us have a reduced tolerance for people outside of us that do things that upset us, hurt us, unnerve us, make us uncomfortable, make us feel safe, because we don't know that we have the power to create safety, even if we're in environments that have reasons to feel unsafe. Many of us have not mastered the ability to detach from other people's projections. So we take them on, and as highly sensitive souls, that energy overwhelms our system, that activates the ego, and we begin responding in ways that are more reactive, defensive, passive aggressive, because there is accumulation of hurt, pain, sadness, rage, grief that hasn't been addressed. So things that may not be as big as they seem feel huge to us. Many of us are dream walkers that have astral experiences during our sleep, and we may or may not remember them, but it leaves an imprint on us. Without the proper routines, which are rituals, and once you illuminate the shadow self, the rituals become rituals, because they light up the routines that you need to help you clear your energy field, if necessary, to help you connect to the subconscious healing and what's being purged from us while we're sleeping, to build on that throughout your day-to-day life. Many of us have ancestors who had magic thrown on them, or ancestors who were bound by religion, which means to bind. That is literally the definition. We discussed this with the author, Dr. Blind, of The Functionary, which is an unpublished book that we have available that explains this. And so those ancestors may or may not be the best way forward. Many of us are confused about the idea of ancestors because a lot of the things that we suffered was at the hands of relatives, and some of them has passed on. And I would just give a little bit of advice right now, and that would be to not call on anybody that you have bad memories about. And when you call forth your ancestors, call on the ancestors of the highest vibration that will not cause you any harm, to support you, to bypass dealing with ancestors that may be more harmful than beneficial. Because many of us are not really working with our ancestors due to some of these reasons I am discussing with you now. However, it is definitely something that can be a support system for your ascension journey. And I hope that I was able to clarify some of that for some of you. Many of us went through religious trauma, which is something hardly no one talks about. People live in a world where monotheistic religion that was paid for to be evangelized across the world with bloodshed and wars. And we wonder why there's so much violence in our communities. We wonder why there's so much self-hatred and self-criticism within ourselves. Many of us were taught to grovel and beg and plead and always be sorry and feel bad about anything that you've done. And we did this so much on repeat. And some of us were forced to pray and forced to repent and take penance. And for those of us who were Catholic, the Hail Marys, and these things created spiritual contracts with these monotheistic religions, which are created by demigods who actually are interdimensional beings that wanted to be able to control humanity. And so religion is actually a form of spiritual warfare disguised as spiritual healing. And because this programming is so deep, so multi-generational, many of us may be the only ones in our family who have awakened to the trauma caused by religion on this planet as a whole. Many of us desire abundance, but there seems to be something getting in the way. And oftentimes a desire for abundance with an untrained mind leads to you obsessing over what you lack. So the attachment to what we lack blocks abundance and prosperity, good fortune. Many of us don't want to focus on what we lack. We want to focus on the aspects of us that are strengths. We want to focus on reasons to be grateful for what we have in our life, but the accumulated emotional repression within us will not allow us to do so. There are many people teaching so many things around this topic, and the one most powerful download that I received was, in an effort to receive abundance, you must release the attachment to what you lack. In an effort to receive healing, you must release attachment to what is sick. In an effort to receive more of what you desire, you must detach from how you're going to get there. You must detach from the outcome. You must learn to be receptive, open, and allowing. You must learn to surrender what you cannot control. Many of us struggle with finances. Money is simply energy, because a lot of our energy is being spent worrying. And if you excessively worry, you deplete the energy necessary to magnetize things into your life. And if your energy is depleted, there is no way for what you desire to come to you. Worry is not just something we inherit, but it's something that's been engineered through our gut, through our experiences, through the contracts, the vows, the pacts that we have made throughout life. Many of us have actually gotten to a place of self-loathing, despising certain things about yourself, hoping that you can change, but the attachment to what is not allowing what you hope to come. Many of us struggle to feel grateful because grief and gratitude are like oil and water. I want you to really hear me. Grief and gratitude is like oil and water. The two do not mix. However, grief can be an effective bridge to deeper gratitude. Before I tapped into this channel to share with you, I felt grief because of an experience that I had that taught me a valuable lesson, but painful. In an effort to heal my gut after years of antibiotics and medications and trauma, which also disturbs the gut microbiome, I went to see a specialist, and during my visit with the specialist, there were so many young people, even younger than me, dealing with digestive issues that they weren't able to resolve. And the practitioner that I saw told me that I knew more than she did based on our one conversation where she was supposed to be helping me, but I had more information than she did. And it was in this moment that I realized that Western medicine intentionally worked with the Food Administration to create diseases, and they kept the knowledge that was necessary to actually heal these things away from people in medical school, to keep their foots on our throats, to keep the invisible leash attached to us, to keep us in a parasitic relationship with those that own all of the corporations on this planet. I knew about this previously, but yesterday's experience took me much deeper into the warfare that is happening right now. The lady that drew my blood for my lab work has a young daughter in her 20s struggling with so many issues that haven't been able to be resolved, and she works with the specialist. And she told me that before coming to work, she had to call the ambulance to come and get her daughter, and that this has happened several times this month, and that her daughter is unable to eat anything except for 2 foods, and even those 2 foods still aren't helping her, and that her quality of life is so low and so bad, and that she's so depressed. She can't work. She can't do anything to take care of herself as an adult. And the grief that this lady was feeling, I was also feeling. And she said to me, "You wouldn't believe how many young people sat right here in this chair that are not here anymore. just because of something that's happening inside of their stomach. Took their life away from them. And every time it's a shock, and every time it is a surprise. The pain, the suffering that these conglomerates have agendas to create, feed the archonic parasites. The demigods are also archonic. They are very parasitic, and they feed off of pain and suffering and disease and disconnection. Our poor relationship skills, it feeds them the negative emotions and the fallout from this, and it guarantees another generation that will be bound by this. Knowing what I know actually increase the amount of grief that I was feeling. So many people have these small things that's happening in their day-to-day life that's connected to everything that I'm saying now. And the system has been rigged so that we don't find a way to overcome, to keep us trapped in the labyrinth of chasing, trying to fix. To work with practitioners who will actually help you to heal is very expensive, and no insurance company in the United States will pay for any of it. They will only pay for prescriptions and surgeries. They will only cover procedures and exams by people who don't have the full knowledge, the full gnosis. They don't have access to the hidden knowledge. They don't know anything about what your body actually needs. They don't know anything about frequencies of different foods. They don't know anything about any of this. But they're being paid very well to practice what's actually making the problem worse and inducing new diseases that are side effects to medication. Many of us, if not us, have people that we love who are going through this right now. And there is a certain level of emotional regulation that you must be able to attain to witness others or yourself go through this. I have often wondered why, as an oracle, I have experienced so many of these issues, but it's clear to me now. How would I be able to speak to people on many different paths with many experiences if I had not had the experience? And this actually increases the effectiveness of the work that I do. So it wasn't a mistake, and it wasn't a failure for me to choose the challenges that I chose in this incarnation. It was for the benefit of all beings who resonated with me and my message. It is validating to know that my challenges and what I am going through actually add value to me, and it adds value to everything that comes through me. If I was speaking to you from a space of overcoming every single thing and not having any challenges, any obstacles, any difficulties, what would be the value in that? I wouldn't know anything to offer to you for transformation. Though over 80% of the negative experiences that I have been completely healed and transformed, that 20% that's left, a very small amount that I'm still working on, is the catalyst that keeps me allowing the channeled information to flow through me that you will not find in a book unless it's in the Akashic library. This is the reason that I am able to help people in the way that I do. This is the reason that I'm able to meet people where they are without judging them for where they are or where they've been. This is the reason that I don't demonize anybody. I don't believe in good or bad. It's only a matter of what's beneficial and what's not. You see, healing was demonized by using words like witch, using things like demonic to keep us in this trap of this prison planet. Recently, I went to the Akashic Library and I met with Marie Laveau, which is a very well-known voodoo priestess. And this woman was able to have ceremonies for people and heal people and help people win in a rigged court system. She was able to do so many things that the police and, everybody, the authorities, law enforcement, they were afraid of this woman. On the surface, this seems like something that's really, really bad. This is a witch. This is a voodoo priestess. She's a bad person. But when you really look at the situation, every single form of indoctrination that we received had an insidious intention, motives to separate us from our own soul. There is nothing that can exceed the wickedness of what we have had to go through. So she was actually a glitch in the matrix. The power that she was connected to is what allowed her the ability to do the things that she did, to accomplish the things that she accomplished. And even for some of us, we may still struggle because of subconscious beliefs around topics like this, and this will hold you back from your own healing journey. You must begin to isolate the beliefs that are distorted, that were embedded in your subconscious mind before you were able to make a conscious decision for yourself what to believe. This is the high wickedness, the sorcery of being forced to drink blood and eat the flesh in communion. And many of us had to do that, but many of us may feel more of a trigger around conversations about voodoo or witchcraft than we do about the ritualistic sorceries that were imposed upon us as children. We had to give vows to give our mind, body, and souls over to a God that we really knew nothing about. Many of us were given pieces of cake for our very first birthday, packed with sugar, which shuts down the immune system, causes cancer, and many other issues. Now we're seeing Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's because of the sugar, the processed foods. And it's taking away memories of people that we love. diabetes. There's a type 3 now. And it's such a major issue, especially in younger people. This was intentional. And we would gather around this piece of cake with this 1-year-old and maybe even his parents. Before we knew better, we did it ourselves. And we would cheer them on as they put something inside of their sacred temples that would bring forth all of these issues. That really puts things in a different frame to see what really is wicked. Was the food pyramid not a form of black magic and witchcraft? Did those that raised us participate in any of those things? This is the reason that I dedicated years of my life to study the occult path. I didn't want to be a teacher that only taught from love and light. I wanted to actually study many different spiritual systems to come to a better understanding, an understanding, an overstanding of the situation that we're in. And in my study of the occult, in the study of gnosis, in the study of the laws of hermetics, in the study of voodoo, hoodoo, Santeria, the list goes on and on. I noticed these common denominators, and I noticed that the systems and the indoctrination and the things that we experienced were actually the highest form of sorcery, and the things that we were told to stay away from actually were ways to acquire confidence, protection, remove evil eye energy, curses and hexes that have been on our generations for many generations. I found so many solutions that I could not find any other way. And I asked myself, why was I so afraid of this knowledge? And it was due to the subconscious programming against it. Even though I had willingly and unknowingly and unconsciously participated in it and been raised by people who participated in it, all in the name of righteousness, all in the name of having fun, enjoying your birthday, going to school, going to church. We have all of these things that we do that are rituals that led us to this current state where there is a mental health crisis. Many millennials are struggling to keep jobs, to provide for themselves. They're neurodivergent and maybe even more neurodivergent than previous generations. They struggle with being able to be intimate. They struggle with anxiety around social situations. They don't know how to make friends. They don't know how to connect. They don't know who they are. They don't have the tools to deal with the challenges of generations ignoring a lot of the things that I've mentioned to you now. Though this message reveals the root of a lot of the rot that we have had to face, this message is inspirational because I offer to you solutions. You are the solution. Your soul is the solution that you seek. I hope that this message helps somebody to see things from a new perspective, because our perspective shapes our reality, and the way we act impacts what we attract. I am working on a course called Turn Your Pain into Power. And you all will be my priority. You will receive the notification as soon as this course launches. I will be providing many different solutions to everything that I have discussed in this channeled message. This course has been years in the making. I read your comments, your emails based on our readings, our one-on-ones, our group coaching. And then I go into the Akashic records to pull what is going to be the most impactful, simple way for us to continue our ascension journey. So I want you to use what I have provided up to this point. Definitely hone into your intuition and trust this process. Everything is going to work out for your benefit because you were courageous enough to step onto the path of self-realization, to be the one who disturbs the delusions that have imprisoned us for many generations. I want to celebrate you and let you know that you are not alone and that you are very important to this journey, and you are equipped. You have everything that you need within you. And once you have more tools to access this, you will be able to achieve things with more ease, with less struggle. And you will finally be able to see the greatness that has been hidden behind your flaws. Namaste. Namaste. One love, Ashe.